Now to talk about the plot of Sonic Freeriders. The story starts out with Eggman in a disguise announcing the Grand Prix and its reward. Omochao is so enthusiastic. I don't know why they chose him for the interviewer because nobody likes Omochao. I guess they were trying to fix his character, but you can't make people forget how he used to be. He interviews Team Sonic. Tails is worried that Sonic won't rev up his gear, and is suspicious of the race after complaining that Sonic always leaves all the tech work to him for being good at it. The only reason I'm saying this would make sense is that he thinks some of the tech work is so easy that anyone would be able to do it. When Amy complains about losing, Tails says what the audience is thinking. And Amy's bratty. I love that Sonic calls her out. I like that Cream compliments her competition. I like how Knuckles says that because it makes him sound responsible, reaffirming the role he has in Sonic's group. He doesn't want his team to become arrogant, and it's especially satisfying of him to say this because normally you wouldn't put it past Knuckles to let a victory go to his head. Knuckles shows intelligence by warning him. You'd think if anything that would be cause for concern about the robot's well-being. Making weird clicking sounds and moving around all funny doesn't mean he's evil. Omochao watches the footage from earlier and says he's not picking up any strange sounds there. And Sonic asks Knuckles if he was imagining things. Why would he doubt him though? It's not like him to imagine things.
You boys weren't half bad out there.
Rouge teases Tails that she might just run off with her award. Rouge isn't supposed to be sadistic. She's motivated by liking Jules, not sadism. I say sadism because that's the only reason she would foolishly warn him that she's gonna run off with her award. I'd say the worst thing about the story is the horrible voices, but you can still mute them and read all the dialogue. She says a fantastically written line. I actually laughed at that sentence. I love it. That's the kind of humor Sonic needs more of. It's so witty. The cutscenes can be cheesy, but that line was fantastic. Tails compliments Wave, and she doesn't believe him, because of how cynical she is. Of course Tails wouldn't sarcastically compliment someone. I mean, if he did, you know it.
Don't let her get to you.
Sonic says it was too easy, insulting anyone in the audience who had a hard time with the previous bit of gameplay, which is everybody. Jet is annoyed with Wave. I wonder if Metal Sonic was responsible for their tech trouble. There's no reason Wave would be so bad at making an airboard that it would screw up halfway through the race. Tails offers to help them. He's so sweet in this game. Why did it take so long for Tails to be confident working with Extreme Gear? He was working with Extreme Gear since the first Riders game. Still, it is adorable. And Knuckles calls Jet an annoying punk. Good. I guess I just have to assume there's people she's seeing that the bare bones, pathetic visual novel style cutscene presentation won't allow me to see. That's the end of the hero's story. The story just ends. You don't even see a celebration ceremony with the actual cutscene presentation. Even Super Mario Kart showed your character sitting on top of a staircase or whatever being handed a trophy. That's how low budget this game is. And now for the Babylon story. The story complements Metal Sonic, showing that he's not all bad. Metal is a fantastic line. Wish he didn't have a monotone performance making his line less impactful though. Because his lines are supposed to be full of emotion. Amy says that her team is facing Sonic in the finals, even though she's the first person Sonic races against in his story. Did Jet winning the first race of the tournament magically change history so that Amy won against Team Sonic in the first race? Huh? And now we see Amy bitching at Vector again. He's starting to go soft from lukewarm challenges. I like that line from Jet. Such snarky humor. I think this is funnier than Sonic Colors. The humor comes naturally and is believable. I hate how Whiny Cream sounds when she's saying this. She's not wuss. She decided to try to save her mother in her first appearance. Jet is arrogant and condescending after winning against Sonic rather than being extremely happy and cheering constantly at achieving his new life's goal. He's acting like he expected to win. He had an inferiority complex by his start at zero gravity. I expected him to say, "At last." Sonic says he got lucky. Somehow something went wrong with his tuning job. So Jet is annoyed and calls a rematch with Sonic, wanting a real victory. Why didn't he do this when Sonic's board blew up, causing him to win the tournament in Sonic Riders? He definitely would have heard that. I guess the reason he didn't demand a rematch was that he was just happy he got what he wanted. It's not about Chaos Emeralds this time. Wave praises Jet for once, showing that she does indeed have a good enough relationship with him to do that. And Sonic admits that he's good. That's weird. And the story just ends there. Why is there a Team Dark story? Rouge is a greedy bitch suddenly. She's always been about jewels, not money. Team Dark was so apathetic that they showed up late without even caring. Since when are they like this? Because apparently being anti-heroes makes them lazy all of a sudden. Omochao is self-conscious? I love that line. It makes him of all people relatable. It's Omochao in name only though. Team Dark showed up late because they don't care. It has to be because Rouge plans on stealing the prize money anyways. It's still not smart of them because if they showed up on time, they wouldn't have gotten a lecture. Why is she bothering to race at all then? Maybe the prize money is in front of everybody. After Rouge tries to get Omochao to join their team so they can have a third team member, he says it's not his job and it's too risky to do that. Where's Omega? Come to think of it, all he cares about is killing Eggman robots. Of course he wouldn't do this. I also like how Omochao shows fear there. It deepens his character by making it clear that he's not taking action because he doesn't want to get hurt. It's relatable. Rouge tries to talk a generic robot into joining her for the races. So working with Rouge wasn't his plan at first? Why is he doing what a friend of Sonic wants? It would have made more sense if she threatened him. Instead I have to assume he humored her because he was bored and wanted to experience the racing. Wish I knew that. Shadow uncharacteristically downplays how useful his teammates were to him. The robot says a great burn of a line. And assaults Storm. Sure it's convenient for him that he doesn't get punished for it. Maybe it's because he's a robot. It's not like he attacked him during the race. The robot's unusually boastful. It's weird for even Metal Sonic to say that. And even Sonic doesn't talk like that. It's inferiority complex talk, which is why it's especially surprising that he didn't talk like that in Sonic Heroes. Sonic compliments Shadow, and all of a sudden the robot's begging to be allowed to rest. Since when does Metal Sonic, or any robot, get completely exhausted a lot faster than non-robots do? That's supposed to be part of the whole advantage of robots. Seems like he's unusually poorly built. Tails is actually feeling sorry for him. You'd think someone who thought Omega could be reasoned with when she first met him wouldn't be racist against robots. Omochao mentions that Team Dark has to face off against Team Rose in the finals. Rouge somehow thinks she can talk him into skipping to the fun part, when it wouldn't be allowed. Either that or she's just bragging, which is in character. It doesn't look like that because of Omochao's response. Because Omochao takes her question seriously. Steam comes from the robot, and Shadow feels sorry for him. It makes it confusing that later in the plot he's nothing like this. So apparently he's only saying that because if he doesn't hold it together, Shadow would be inconvenienced by it. What's sweet is that even Vector and Amy are worried about him. Rouge continues being a bitch, with Cream wasting her time calling her out. Vector drives home that his team actually cares about each other. But it irritates me with the story writer's lack of self-awareness since Amy is a jerk to all of them in this game. Omochao says that he got back from HQ about the robot dropping out and says that they'll acknowledge the winner of this round as champion. So Team Dark wins the Grand Prix and Amy complains. Omochao says he doesn't know where any of them are and says something relatable again. Omochao says that the real prize is locked in a safe. So Rouge just stole dummy props there for display. It should have been explained that the reason he prepared this was because he knew Rouge is a thief. And now for the Team Rose story. Team Rose hasn't completed their team registration yet, and it's never properly explained why they end up being late. Perfect example of her mischaracterization. Imagine if she said ass instead of tail, and you'll understand even more how out of character she is here. I feel sorry for Cream there. Amy would never leave her behind. This is the worst characterization that Amy has ever had. Naturally, Sonic is tired of her. Cream says relatably that she'd rather just be cheering her friends on. So now I have to assume she was peer pressured into this. I think the reason she assumes Sonic let her win is because she respects him so much that's the only reason she would think of for why he would lose. Logically, it is the only reason, but the only reason she'd be written to say this is that we're supposed to think she's wrong because it's a joke at her expense. Tails compliments Cream. Is it because they're both flying types? The trash talk is cringeworthy here, with Storm literally calling them kindergartners and Amy saying a really dickish line. Wow. Amy would never say this. She wouldn't have made it through Sonic Heroes if she was useless. After Jet acts like a sore loser, saying let them win, Wave tells him to focus. And some trash talk happens, boring me before another race happens. Cream mentions to Vector that it's too late to be talking about how they have to split the victory money. Why do they have to split the victory money when Vector's poor anyways? Come to think of it, Vanilla is dressed like she's rich. So Cream really would have no business keeping some of the money. Saying different sounds stupid. Wouldn't a lot of people be giving Vector money for his detective services? I guess it's just really bad at advertising it. It's not like every detective service is poor, right? Or is that the case in Japan? It's an inside joke. Just because Sonic's around doesn't mean no one will go to him when Sonic's busy. Not to mention, they just made a joke about a sympathetic character starving. I like those lines from Vector. They're really charming and endearing and in character for him. The whole Louis thing is also good at providing insight into what he has to deal with. Loans from gangsters? That's pretty shocking. And there's really no reason to add it. It's not necessary for the plot overall, but it develops on what his life is like. If he can't afford dinner because his detective services aren't used enough, it makes sense that he needs to get loans. And as for why he didn't get a loan from the bank, maybe he has a really bad credit rating. I can't imagine why. He's supposed to be smart. I like how Cream and Vector are all worried about the robot, but then Shadow's mean to him. Why does the last race not count just because the robot that wasn't even in the previous race broke down? Or if he was in the previous race, why should it count? So they have to race each other again. He's not supposed to be outright heartless. It would have been better to make new characters for this kind of role. At least Cream calls him out, even though it is a waste of time. So Omochao announces Team Rose's victory. I love how desperate Vector sounds there. It's always sweet when she says mama, like earlier in the plot. It makes me hate the fact that she says mother even more. Did she usually say mother? Because she insists on saying that in IDW, and it's just creepy and weird. Amy demands a date from Sonic like a spoiled brat, which no one would defend if she was a guy. Cream sounds happy. And now for the last story. Finally something interesting. Too bad it lasts over 30 minutes. Last stories are supposed to be shorter than the main stories. Eggman lies that all the fans at home watching wrote in letters clamoring for more extreme action, causing him to make a new machine for racing. Shadow and Sonic realize who Eggman really is. They're smart enough to get the hint, but it still took them too long. Rouge is pointing out a plot hole that was never fixed. How is he not out of commission anymore? Eggman made the fastest gear in the world. Tails says happily that Knuckles wasn't paranoid after all. And Sonic doesn't take Eggman seriously, which makes you less hyped for the ending climax against him. His attitude is straight out of Sonic Boom. It's completely out of place in the Riders series, which is supposed to be cool. Eggman is irritated that he lost. And Tails talks to him smugly, being out of character. He's imitated Sonic like this before, but the Miniac's insufferable. He's being an insufferable genius, which misses the appeal of him. Eggman's evil plan wasn't really that. If Eggman had one of his usual evil plans, his line would be cathartic. Instead, it feels like kicking down because he doesn't really feel like an evil mastermind. He hosted a tournament that everyone enjoyed. So what if he lied about his identity when he still did them a favor? He barely even feels like the villain at all. Everyone's ganging up on Eggman makes him look like the underdog. When the characterization of the heroes has gone to the point where you side with the main villain of the franchise, something has gone horribly wrong. I knew that even before I watched AOSCH. After blowing a lot of steam, the robot reveals himself to be Metal Sonic. Sonic asks how Eggman didn't know it was him already. Another plot hole that's pointed out and never properly filled in. It has to be that Metal Sonic wasn't returned to Eggman after Sonic Heroes, because otherwise he wouldn't still have the free will to go to this game. Apparently, this is the game where Eggman found him again. Tails reveals that Metal Sonic used the data of all of the characters to have the fastest extreme gear. Because of course using the data of all the characters would result in you being the fastest one, rather than merely having maxed out stats in all three types. Being just as fast as the fastest character, for example. That makes sense. Oh wait, that makes no sense. Never mind. I mean, he's not copying bio data, he's copying extreme gear. Someone would have had to have given him that ability, so it has to have been Eggman. So never mind. If it was Eggman who gave him this power, he would have also removed his free will after Sonic Heroes, so he wouldn't have even come here. He'd have to be impossibly stupid to have not done that. And why would Gun have given them that ability, when it couldn't have been Gun, or else he wouldn't hate the heroes anymore? It's so anticlimactic beating Metal Sonic. He doesn't even say anything. He just makes a robotic sound that doesn't mean anything and runs off. Maybe he was too embarrassed and upset to say anything. Or maybe he just can't talk anymore for some reason. Which doesn't make any sense, because why would a lowly, measly looking normal robot talk and not a robot that's better than them? Sonic says a surprisingly chuckle-worthy line. Really? Rouge saw Metal Sonic racing Sonic and Eggman having no prize money coming? Why'd you enter then? She must have been lying. I like how much I was happy enthusiasm. The story is like a 3 out of 10. The mischaracterization can be horrible at times, and the story is painfully simplistic and predictable. It's literally a tournament again. And Sonic Riders was more awesome about it, because the prizes were Chaos Emeralds, and Babylon Garden showed up. It has a few fantastic lines, because of how witty they are. The girls aside from Cream are all pretty bitchy in this game, and I'm not sure why. The only plot holes major enough for me to remember are, how did Metal Sonic disguise himself as a normal robot when he wouldn't still have the Sonic Heroes ability anymore? Because whoever Omega would have brought him to definitely would have removed that ability after he used it against Eggman. And why did Eggman feel the need to disguise himself when he didn't have to in Sonic Riders doing the same thing?